This is the most vulnerable Max Verstappen has been since winning his first title. Now he is calling on the rest of Red Bull to get it together, after the mass exodus of people that made him the multi-champion he is today, especially with Oscar Piastri's speed keeping him up at night. The reigning world champion said that it was unrealistic to expect Red Bull to hold onto all its key personnel, especially given the wave of high-profile departures lately. Following the news of designer Adrian Newey's departure in May, who has since signed with Aston Martin, Red Bull will also be losing sporting director Jonathan Wheatley to Audi and head of strategy Will Courtney, who is set to join McLaren. Their exits follow a rocky year for Red Bull away from the racetrack. Tensions at the management level began to surface during pre-season testing in Bahrain, when an investigation into alleged misconduct by team boss Christian Horner, though ultimately dismissed, became public. Before this, Red Bull had already seen designer Rob Marshall depart, and he's now making a significant impact at McLaren, one of their main competitors for the 2024 title. At the time, Verstappen expressed concerns about the potential loss of what he referred to as the pillars of Red Bull's success, especially given the internal turmoil and questions surrounding his mentor Helmut Marko's position. During the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, Verstappen mentioned that he signed a contract until 2028, making it crucial for certain key figures to stay in place. In a recent conversation with motorsport.com in Singapore, it's clear that Red Bull hasn't managed to keep its team intact. Instead, they've decided to promote from within to fill the gaps left by departing staff. One notable member stepping up is Verstappen's longtime race engineer, Giampiero Lambiase, who is taking on broader responsibilities in the new management structure. Verstappen now recognises that it was always going to be a challenge for Red Bull to maintain its championship-winning team, especially with rivals aggressively trying to lure away key personnel. He said, "Well, we didn't manage that too well. As I always said, I would have preferred if everyone had stayed. But in the end, you can't stop people. If you force them to stay when they don't really want to be here anymore, if they are disappointed or don't fully get what they want, then maybe it's better for them to take up a new challenge elsewhere. Even if for the whole team collectively, it would have been better if everything had stayed the way it was." It's always been like that with successful teams. People will start picking them apart. You see that in any sport. And some people get such big offers from other teams that plays a role as well. Other important figures, such as Head of Performance Engineering Ben Waterhouse and Head of Aerodynamics Enrico Balbo, did renew their contracts earlier this year. As a result, Verstappen feels confident that Red Bull has the right technical leadership to propel the team forward into its post-Newey era. He also mentioned that he enjoys a solid working relationship with technical director Pierre Wache. "It's very good Pierre and I talk a lot," he explained. "When I'm in the factory, I always have a meeting with him. He's very motivated and I enjoy being involved. Things are working quite well. It's just that the results aren't what we want right now. It's up to us to turn that around as a team. I have faith that people know what they're doing. They've already shown that. Other teams have very good people too, but I don't think that's the issue right now. We just took a wrong turn, so it was time to hit the reset button and go in a different direction. At the end of the day, it's not just 2 or 3 people who make the difference. It's about the collective. Everyone has to chip in and work well within their role. That's the most important thing." Unfortunately, that collective includes Max's own father, Jos Verstappen, a man Helmut Marko claims to be disturbing the peace. Verstappen Sr. has publicly criticised Christian Horner, attributing the team's struggles to his leadership style and involvement in a personal scandal. But Helmut Marko thinks that Jos's comments came at the worst possible time. He acknowledged to ORF Tirol that comments made by Jos, on top of the passing of founder Dietrich Mateschitz in 2022 and Horner's recent scandal, have all played a role in Red Bull's challenges in 2024. Let's put it this way, it didn't help either. But we sat down together and agreed that we have to pull together. We have to work together in all areas to win this championship. This is the direction to follow for the future as well, because it's clear that if we don't give Max a car that he can win with, there could be complications in the longer term. All the top drivers have exit options in their contracts, and in this case, Max can also look for another option. He will drive where the package will be the best. Following the team's very public leadership power struggle in 2024, Horner successfully held on to his role as team principal. But Marko noted that Red Bull's structure is still in a state of flux since Mateschitz's passing. While Horner continues to manage Red Bull Racing's operations, the specifics of the organisational structure are still being worked out. In terms of structure, Oliver Mintzlaff is responsible for F1, but also football, cycling, and various other things. Christian Horner is in charge of Red Bull Racing from an operational point of view, but I would say that the details have not been finalised yet, because the system is still developing. It's become evident that this isn't a conflict between Marko and Horner, as some initially thought. In fact, Dr. Marko seems to fully support the Red Bull team principle. The Austrian clearly understands that Horner has transformed the remnants of the Jaguar F1 team into a Formula One powerhouse, which has also provided Marko with a place at the top. The bottom line is that as long as Red Bull can create a competitive, championship-winning car, both the Verstappens and Marko are here to stay. Max Verstappen recognises that Red Bull needs to step up its game to recover in the F1 Constructors' Championship, where they currently trail McLaren by 41 points, a gap he blames not on Lando Norris, but on Oscar Piastri's impressive performance. With Norris now seen as Verstappen's closest championship rival, many believe that the Woking-based team has the strongest driver lineup in the series, a sentiment McLaren Racing CEO Zak Brown has been promoting for some time. Even Helmut Marko recently acknowledged the strength of McLaren's drivers, suggesting that Red Bull is not competing effectively in that area at the moment. It's worth noting, however, that this comment was aimed more at Sergio Perez than at Verstappen, the three-time drivers' champion. While the 27-year-old was careful not to label Norris and Piastri as the strongest pairing in F1, he did acknowledge that they currently make a very strong team. Verstappen highlighted Piastri's impressive form, especially considering that this is only the Australian's second season in Formula One. When directly asked if he thought McLaren had the best driver lineup and whether the 23-year-old was exceeding expectations in his second year, Verstappen responded to the media. He said, "Yeah, for sure. Oscar's doing a great job. Being in your second year, you're still learning a lot about Formula One and in general. Yeah, he's doing a fantastic job lately. He's scoring the points for the team, and at the moment they are very strong as a team." Since claiming his first Grand Prix victory in Hungary, Piastri has only missed the podium once. That fourth-place finish at the Dutch Grand Prix was a result of a McLaren strategy decision. He would have finished third if he hadn't been left out longer, and consequently held up behind Charles Leclerc's Ferrari. Moreover, Piastri hasn't finished outside the top four since the Spanish Grand Prix in June, marking a streak of 8 races. Coincidentally, the same stretch during which Verstappen has not secured a win. With Norris also performing strongly, McLaren has completely flipped the Constructors' Championship. After being 115 points behind following the Miami Grand Prix, they now lead Red Bull by 41 points with 6 races left in the season. Considering the performance of the MCL38 and its drivers, Verstappen is aware that defending the title relies heavily on him and his team. He emphasised the need to enhance the RB20 ahead of the upcoming season-ending triple headers. He added, "So it's now up to us to try and make it a bit more difficult for them, generally, I think, but that starts with ourselves. We have to be better and make the car faster, and that's what we're working on. But yeah, for sure from Oscar's side, he's having a great run now. The question now is whether or not those over 200 people can propel Red Bull ahead of McLaren. Tell us what you think about that in the comments section down below. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Thanks for watching.